Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chance Manolo Show. And today we have a very special guest, a fellow farmer, and it's such a blessing to have him on the show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Tony Boss from California. I'm a farmer now in Indiana, but I originated here in California with my father as a dairy farmer in Artesia. Moved to Mariloma, Corona, moved from there to El Paso, moved now to Indiana, but I still have a lot of family and friends here in California, and basically I'm a third generation farmer and go from there, I guess.
Is your farming selling meats and milk?
We sell meat and milk both. We're basically a dairy farmer, but we raise our own corn, our own soybeans, and our own alfalfa. And we sell, of course, beef. When the cows don't give enough milk to be profitable, they go to McDonald's, basically. So we're the big, all hamburger joints. Basically, they love dairy cattle for beef because they get fed grain all the time. So they've got really good meat, well tenderized meat with fat in it, but it's not tender enough to be steak. So basically all of our dairy cattle go for hamburger.
Okay.
And then from there we also sell milk, but right now beef is a big thing in the dairy industry. Milk has gotten quite a bit cheaper the last year, and beef hasn't. Beef has gone up. I'm sure most everybody knows how steak is as high as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really making our profit right. This past year we're making a profit in beef more than we are in milk, to be honest with you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I see such a lot of young people now all over social media, and they're all so big on red meat and steak because it's like the protein. It's like, because like back then, a couple years ago, a lot of it was junk food, and we would just, a lot of the younger people, even nowadays, right, we just have so much, junk food, eat the chips, eat that. But it's just so awesome to see like a huge upbringing in like healthy foods and meat, right? Because
It's totally changed from 10 years ago even. We thought the dairy industry was going to come to an end because they were coming up with the almond milk, they were coming up with the fake milk, and they were even with fake hamburger, which I think that company actually has gone broke now, which Gates had been in big time, but it just didn't work out. There was more processed products in this fake beef than there is definitely in real beef. The real beef is processed naturally through the cow, through the feed, and so it's really gotten popular. And of course, the new whole milk that they put back into schools finally, after making school kids drink skim milk, when they're finding out now that whole milk fat is good for you instead of skim milk. I mean, when they took away all the fat back 30 years ago, they said fat was bad for you. All the milk are fat, and beef fat also. That was all bad for you. People started eating carbohydrates and getting sugar diabetes instead because they were hungry all the time. What fat fills you up, and it doesn't make you have high cholesterol like they used to think it does. So. But yeah, I could go on that forever.
Yeah.
And it's really improved us now. I think we're going to see a big improvement in milk consumption here. We went up 1.6%, I think, this past year, which is the first time whole milk consumption's gone up in 20 years. And I think it's going to go up more yet because now next year all the schools are going to start having whole milk and chocolate milk again instead of just skim milk. And so I think the future looks really good for us. Because of what you're saying. People want protein, they want our whey, they want our cheese, they want our milk, they want the beef. So I think it looks good for us in the future. Even though it's down right now, I think it'll get better.
Yeah, I totally see that all over social media with all of there's like a whole revolt of like young people, and they're making like the breakfast, and they have the eggs, and they have like the huge steak, and it's just really awesome to see my generation come up and be more healthy now. And I just had a question when you're talking about steak. I didn't know that the different types of steak, depending on which cow it is, will have a different texture, right, and different quality.
There's grades for it. There's prime, there's choice, and there's three grades. Prime is what you pay the $30 a pound for a good prime steak, and then choice can be down to 15 or 20. And it all depends on how it's graded. After you butcher them and they have the fat content on them, you see them hanging without their skin. and how much fat is in that meat. That's how they're graded. That's your different texture. And your cheapest texture is, like you said, it's grainy, but your real good texture is not. It's marbled, what they call marbled with fat, and it's very smooth and smooth in your mouth. You know, it's not grainy at all. But there's three main different textures of beef, and there's three big prices. It goes from $10 to $20 to $30 per pound. You know, of the whole beef without a bone.
How has working with animals, and as we know, as Christians, given animals by God, right? And how has working with animals shaped your faith?
You know, that's a hard question, and I've seen that question earlier, actually, but it's a hard question because, you know, God treats a Christian dairy farmer the same as a non-Christian dairy farmer. So it's what they call common grace. You know, we get rain, but a farmer that's a non-Christian gets rain, the same rain we get, you know. So it's hard to say how a dairy farming affected my faith. I think more than anything, it's the way we had to work as kids in the farming business. When I was with my dad yet, you know, we had to work hard. Like on Saturday, we'd always put double the work into it so we could go to the house of worship on Sunday and take Sabbath off as much as we could. I mean, naturally, you still got to feed cows on Sunday. You still got to milk them on Sunday. But to say that farming really affected my faith, I don't think it did, more than just having to work and know that God loved to see us work, basically. And it's just it wasn't an easy life. I mean, today I'm retired and it's a little easier life than it was back when I was young. But my faith was already instilled in me before I got into business. I mean, I was raised on the farm with my dad, and we were raised in the church, and I knew Christ all my life, you know, basically. And so I can't say that farming has affected my faith. I basically have known Jesus as my Savior forever. So that's kind of maybe not the answer you wanted.
I love that. You bring up like a very important point because, like, you know, as Christians, you could be the most preacher of them all, right? Preaching and doing all these good things, but God loves everyone the same, right? I think that's a really beautiful point that you brought up because, you know, me, right, as someone who has been grown up with the faith, God is not going to look down on someone else who hasn't grown up in the faith. He just wants them to come to Him and to get to know Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that's what I say. They call that common grace. I mean, the unsaved is given a beautiful crop just as well as the saved is, because of Christ's sunshine and God's sunshine and God's rain and God's blessings. So, you know, I can't say it really affected me. More that affected me is the way I was raised as a farmer's son, and the way we were just raised in church. Me and my wife both. But both of our families were that way.
What do you think that farming teaches people that, you know, society that doesn't know farming and they're not really involved in it teach?
You know, it wasn't very long ago, even when I was a kid yet. I mean, farmers had a big voting impact. You know, now we're 1% of the population. We used to be 20, 30, 80% of the population 100 years ago. I mean, now we're 1%, so our impact in voting isn't much anymore. So, you know, we do our best, and we got other, you know, there's other offshoots from farming that are still have the voting power too, you know. And we do have a good, what do they call it in Washington? We have a lot of good people rooting for us to sell our powder to China and stuff like that, because that's what keeps us going. But you know, we don't have a lot of voting power anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we aren't like we used to be. We're not a powerhouse in the United States anymore. Not as much as like the Canadian dairy farmers, pretty powerful up there. I don't know why, but they are.
Yeah. Do you think that, you know, as America and the population in farming has decreased over time, do you think that that has affected farmers today?
I think it's affected the farmers today just because, you know, all the little farmers, which we were little at one time, all the little farmers kind of have sold to bigger farmers. And so the little farmers have went back into the cities or went back and, tried to make livings other ways. So, and I don't know if that's because we just we're less in population, but it's kind of hard to say what caused it, what caused us to go down to 1%. Every year, in the dairy industry too, there's at least 2,000 dairymen that sell out. Basically, they sell to a neighbor, and the neighbor gets bigger. And that's the way it's been for the last 20 years, I guess.
See it for yourself. We've both been inside these places, and we've seen what is happening to non-human animals, and it is an absolute atrocity. It is more than abuse. It's the largest Holocaust in history, with 3 trillion individuals brutally murdered every year just for
You've never
food
visited
consumption.
my place.
How do you know?
Because if you had, you'd know that you're talking a load of shit.
And what animals do you farm? What is your industry, may I
I run a
ask?
goat dairy.
First and foremost,
I run a goat dairy. Now, for a start, we don't our animals.
Yes, you use youth.
The vegans, right, they're trying to push all the, you're abusing the animals, everything, which all we're doing is taking care of the animals, right? And as God designed, and then we eat them, but that's God's design, and we don't want to mess with God. But it's unsurprising that a lot of these vegans they're not Christian, they don't believe in God. And I actually personally spoke with a very famous vegan, and I was debating her, telling her that, that the animals are food, you can't just, and she kicked me, she called me she said F off, all these things. And then she started cursing out God. So using God's name in vain. And it just shows like a really bad rep for vegans because, they could say they want to save all the animals, but they hate God. Yeah. But
Well, I'm sure you see these advertisements where, you can send $19 a month to save this dog, or you can send $19 a month to save a human being in an orphanage. But, probably more people send to the dog rescue than the orphanage rescue.
Yeah. That's a really sad thing because, in society, I feel like we're losing our morals, especially because as society goes on, right, our morals decline because people are brought up with they don't want anything to do with God. Yeah. But God gives us, our morals and our faith and, our standing ground. But I think it's really good because we see a huge rising in God and Christianity in the youth in my generation. And that's really amazing because people are really standing up to this. And, as I said, having really healthy breakfasts, eating meat, and they don't care about the vegans. So,
I think vegans. I think it does have a lot to do with God. But I think a lot of these vegans, they don't realize that humans have the breath of God. God breathed in the breath of life into a human, our souls. Mm-hmm. Animals don't have that, but they like to think they do. They like to think these animals have souls like we do. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make sense to me. But and vegans to me, they just don't have the health that a good meat eater has.
Yeah. Again, the animals. I like what you brought up is that animals are not made in the image of God, right? So they're not like us because we're made in the image of God.
He created them.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But he gave us control over them. Mm-hmm. And so.
Mm-hmm. It's always a funny topic that I discuss with my friends and my teachers at school about like, oh, do animals go to heaven? And it's like really debated, and we always get like really heated because like, oh, I have a dog, I want my dog to go to heaven. But what do you think about that? Do you think?
No, the whole idea of the vegans, it's not for us to. It's not because they want us to take better care of the animals. Their whole idea is they don't want us to have animals at all. They don't want animal farming at all, whether it's cattle, chickens, or hogs, or dairy. It's not just it's not that they just want us to take better care of them. We've had them infiltrate our own dairy before and take pictures before, and they just take these pictures and totally change the reason why we do that to a calf, and they'll say we're being cruel to this calf. Well, I guess they don't watch Yellowstone, where they see these rodeos where they brand them and lasso them and everything else. Nobody says a thing about that. We try to pick up a calf and put it in her trailer to move her and we're being mean because we're not letting that calf walk herself into the trailer. We're picking her up and putting it in the trailer. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard for me to respect a vegan, I guess is what you might say.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too, especially.
Yeah.
Do you think that when it comes to God, right, is God like a very, as a Christian, right, and you as well, God being the cornerstone to us, with vegans, right, and people that reject God, you know, they don't have that morals to bring them up. So, I guess my question is like, what do you think is the solution to the vegan problem?
I don't know what's doing it. If it's TV where we're all seeing these animals that can talk, and kids believe this stuff anymore. They see on TV all these animals that are talking back and being, feeling sorry for themselves. These animals, whether AI produced animals or what, but it's not, not real. But kids anymore, they believe in this kind of stuff that they think it's real. I mean, we have a visitor center. We have a visitor center by us that we have allow people to come in and visit, and we get to see baby calves being born, and we have people come in before and they think that a brown cow gives brown milk, and that you just crank the tail like they used to do on TV, and that's how you get milk out of them. I mean, that's what kids believe anymore. Because they don't know, there's no farm buddies. They don't have farm buddies anymore. There's hardly any farm kids in school anymore to tell them the truth about farming, so they believe what's on TV. But there's different vegans. I'm not saying all vegans aren't Christians either. I believe there's plenty of Christian vegans, but they just have a wrong view of animals and our control of animals and a God-given thing that God gave us. And not that we can take advantage of that either. I mean, God didn't give us control of animals to beat them and just do anything we wanted to. I mean, you can't be mean to them. I don't agree with that, but we can still make food out of them, and we can make milk out of their bodies and whatever we can do properly. But I mean, He does it in the Bible all the time, where they have sacrifices, and you feed the people with the lamb the lamb sacrifices for the Passover and everything else. He fed all the people.
I totally see that. As an outro to the episode, I just wanted to ask a last question. When it comes to new farmers coming out and in America, and you have the young farmers that are just starting out today, being 1% of the population, what would you say to them as what would you say to them, to a young farmer that wants to be successful?
Be prepared to work, and if you got the right backer, investments, you can make it. But it's tough to get the right backers anymore because it takes so much money to start a new farm. That's profitable. Unless you're going to be what they call a backyard farmer. You have a job 5 days a week and you come to work your farm on Saturday. I mean, those things can help your pocketbook, you might say, but it's hard to make a living with just a 100-acre farm. You can't make a living anymore. I mean, you can help yourself by doing that, working on the farm on Saturday and working 5 days a week on another job. And that's most of the way that the people start yet today. They start with a little farm or a little chicken ranch or a little, just on a Saturday, you might say, what do they call those farmers that, they're not really farmers, they're just, it's not really a backyard farmer, that's not the right word. But they work in their farm on Saturday, and you can start that way, and you can make it. If you're going to start, you give up your job and go start a farm, you better have a pretty big backer. That's the way it is. It didn't used to be that way. You could just work your way and go start right away that way, but it's pretty hard today.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was such a blessing. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Close out.
Awesome.